Welcome back to a very special, special guest. Very special to me. Maybe not special to others.
Special,
but a very special person to me.
Yeah.
And that is my father, Greg Brown, former Matilda's coach. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much, boys, for having me on. I've been listening to your podcast, and I hear you up to 30-something now, aren't you?
Yeah, too, Dad.
That's awesome. No, really good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure.
No, awesome. Well, we wanted to bring you on today, Dad. I guess especially with the Matilda's phenomenon that's taking over the country at the moment. Obviously, the Matilda's now into the semi-final. Before we get into yourself, I mean, what have your thoughts been of, I guess, the World Cup so far, especially for someone who's been to a World Cup as a Matilda's coach?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this so much. I mean, I'm not just saying this, like almost more than the men's. I mean, I remember my first World Cup that I saw. I think it was, I'm showing my age now, but pretty sure it was about the 1970 World Cup. I was only a kid, but I just remember the colour, the different skills that we're seeing from these teams from all around the world, the South Americans, and I just never seen football like that before. And I think what's happening with the men's game now, when you watch the World Cup, they all sort of pretty much play the same. But what we're seeing at this World Cup, we're seeing, the African nations, the South Americans, and they're playing with their own way. And we're seeing this sort of unstructured clash of cultures, and it's just been brilliant to watch. I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, amazing.
That's so good.
And Greg Brown Senior, what do you, I guess, in your lifetime, did you think that you'd see women's soccer take Australia by storm like this? Like, obviously, you.
Yeah, well, look, I as you know, being a Matilda's coach early on in the piece, I mean, we were sort of in that transformative stage in the mid to late 90s when I was starting to get involved. Prior to that, late 80s, never heard of it. And then 10 years later, there's a World Cup. And now 20 years later, it's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like almost the biggest sporting event Australia's ever had.
It is,
Yeah, it's just incredible considering, we've had the Olympic Games here, but I'm pretty sure the crowds will be even out doing that. It's just been phenomenal. I don't think anyone imagined it would be this big. We all knew it'd be big, but just the way the country's getting behind this is just incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Greg, I wanted to ask about, Tony Gustafsson's been basically, taking the headlines in a way. Australia's fallen in love with his positivity and his approach as the coach at the moment. And yeah, just wanted to get your perspective on, how you rate his sort of approach and how important that is. And also to hear a bit about how you would describe your coaching strategy back when you were a coach, just to get a bit of an idea of that.
Yeah, look, I think, again, we've already mentioned how much the women's game's evolved. And when I was coaching, we had to keep things tactically really simple.
Yeah.
The girls, when I took over, used to training a couple of times a week. I think the highest number of caps our senior player had at the time was about 25.
Wow.
Now, so if you look at the average caps now, they're all, I don't know, they're all up there. But I remember
hundreds.
Yeah, well, I remember playing America early on, and I'm pretty sure they all had 80 plus caps. And we had, our highest one was 25. So the first thing I did once I took over, we're now talking about 97. We're going into the World Cup in 99, the Olympics in 2000. I said to the board and to the high performance manager, I said, we've got to get 30 internationals in the next 2 years prior to the World Cup. Mm-hmm. And then we need another 20 in that last year. So we're going into the Olympics with, 60 plus caps.
Yeah, wow.
And we did squeeze it in. We squeezed, I think in my time, we squeezed 32 internationals in a couple of years.
Wow.
And so then the girls with that kind of experience, you can start to talk to them a bit differently, because they've got the experience, they've played against different styles. But yeah, going to today's coach, look, I think he's done a great job with the girls. You know, they're the only team that to beat England.
Wow.
Since their coach took over prior to the Euros, which is, you know, an achievement in itself.
Yeah.
But you know, I still, it's hard to see because I think, you know, they struggle against Nigeria, they struggle against a different type of play, and I think they got found out a little bit there. But you know, the next two games are the most important ones.
Yeah, that's it.
And playing against England, who, you know, can play a few different ways, but you know what you're up against. And then Spain and Sweden on the other side of the draw, you know what you're up against. So I think they'll actually be a bit more comfortable now, the Australian team, playing against, you know, or knowing what they've got in front of them, rather than playing, you know, say a South African team where really, you know, you really struggle to get a grip on the way they're going to play.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. Well, look, and thanks, Dad, for going into a bit of that. But I guess I wanted the viewers to also understand your journey through the Matilda side. Obviously, myself, I know much about it. But do you want to take us through, I guess, initially getting that call, or you know, sort of knowing that potentially you would be in the running, and I guess from your time at the Matildas, you know, what are the things you really got out of it that you thought were amazing and that you could see was different to the men's game in a good way, that you hope potentially continues?
Okay, so from the start, how did it get called up? It was like a lot of things in sport. It happened really quickly. I was the Queensland Academy of Sport head coach, and I was looking after the boys program up there. And the director at the time asked me to oversee the women's program as well. So I did that. And at that stage, we initiated the first national league, if you like. So that was all the academies around the country played each other in the inaugural National Women's Soccer League. And we won that for Queensland. Nice. But once I got involved with the women's game, or the women's side of it, I got asked by Tom Samani then, who was the Matilda's coach, if I wouldn't mind assisting him as being his assistant. And I was still very young then as a coach. You know, you're talking mid-90s now. You know, I'm only 35, you know, 34, 35. And so I thought it'd be a really good learning curve for me as a coach to sit in behind the national team coach, who's a lot more experienced than me, and just get a grip, you know, and get a feel for it all. So that's how it initiated. But I think I went to one camp, but I never actually played a game under him, because in a short space of time, he took a contract in Japan, which with a J League team over there. So then the position was vacant, and I was asked to apply, and applied, and I was given the job. So it was all happened very quickly.
Go on, don't lie. Were you stoked when you got that call? Did you jump up and down a little bit? Because I mean, that's a nice call to get. Hey, would you want to be the national coach? Yeah, you know, look, the thing that excited me then was, in a very short period of time, we were playing a World Cup and then the Olympics in 2000 in Sydney. Which was huge. It was the biggest thing. And I thought, wow, just to be part of that is going to be so, you know, it'd be unbelievable. So, you know, and then once that initial excitement's over, then it's, you know, it's head down and focus on the job. And it was a massive job ahead of us. And it was, you know, it got back quite scary there when I walk in to find that, you know, the women's national team, some of them are training once a week. You know, in their regions, and we thought, well, we cannot go into a major tournament like this. So, fortunately, because of the Olympics, there was funding from the Sports Commission, which enabled us to put some heavy funds into the development of the Matildas. So, the first thing we did, we centralized them. We centralized the program at the AIS. Yeah. Now, there'd only ever been one centralized women's team before, and that was the Socceroos. And so we spent a lot of time with them, seeing, you know, how they set it up, what was the
what were the problems, what were the issues. We're bringing a large number of females in under one roof, you know. And so Rick Charlesworth was the Hockey Roos coach then, you know, incredible coach, done amazing things with the Hockey Roos, took them to, they were Olympic champions, world champions. So we learned a lot from that, but we were able to centralize the girls at the AIS. So that was the first step, was to get them into a full-time program. And, you know, when you're taking girls, you know, from a 1 or 2 training sessions a week to 10 10 sessions a week, you know, you've got to tread really carefully there. So there's a massive learning curve for all of us, but, you know, we did it. We, as I mentioned earlier, we managed to program all these games, internationals. We toured the Americas, we toured Europe, to get as many games in as we could. And in a very short space of time, we started to gel. And I think, you know, at that stage, we went, I think it was something like 17 games undefeated, which was a record. It might still be. And because of that, the Sports Commission, and we beat China at home, and China were ranked number 2.
Wow.
So because of that, the Sports Commission reckoned we were a medal chance.
Right.
And so once you become a medal chance, your funds go through the roof. So we, in the end, we were getting more funding than the men's because we were deemed to be a better medal chance than the boys. Yeah. So that was great, but you know, I thought we're not a medal chance. There's no way. But we didn't, you know, if that's what they reckon, then that's what they reckon, and that's great. But I knew that we weren't at that level yet. You know, I knew we had a long way to go before we were going to get to that level.
Yeah.
So, you know, prior to the World Cup in '99, you know, we were foot to the floor, where a lot of the other teams were, you know, when they played us, they were trying things, trying new players, probably trying new tactics, trying all that. We were not. We were 100%. You know, foot to the floor. We got to win this game. You know.
Is that where that?
Yeah, so
where that big win happened, the 22-0 against American Samoa. Was it foot to the floor?
Oh right, yeah. So that was World Cup qualifiers.
Right.
So we would never have chosen to play them. You know, we went searching for tough opposition because we knew going to the World Cup, our biggest threat was New Zealand.
Yeah.
So we'd studied them. We not played them, but we played as, you know, as many good teams as we could. And then the World Cup qualifiers were in New Zealand, and yeah, we had Samoa in our draw, and we knew it was going to be a comfortable game, but you know, you've got to give the opposition, you know, the appropriate respect, and we did that. And yeah, we went in at half-time. I think it was only about 7-0. I say only, but you know, it was about
just a drubbing.
It was 7-0.
Yeah.
So at half-time, I said, look, girls, the game's won. The main thing is now in the second half, we don't get injured, right? The eyes on New Zealand. I don't want any injuries, no yellow cards, no red cards, no talking. I said, look, just go out there and let's just keep possession. You know, let's just keep the ball and work on that. You know, we're trying to get something out of the second half. So the focus was second half, just keep possession. But I said, but if we're going to keep possession, it doesn't mean going backwards all the time. We keep possession, we try and get forward. And look, if we get in front of goal, of course, you know, we have a goal. And we played better. we played even better because we were just keeping the ball. They couldn't get near us. We'd go in them, and we created more chances. So we scored 14 in the second half. And it was like, oh, God.
That's crazy. Imagine telling someone to calm down and they score more goals.
Yeah.
That's double the amount of goals. That was like, 7's not enough. 14 more goals in the second half.
No, like I say, certainly wasn't. Look, I didn't even know what the record was, you know, at the time. It wasn't something we were going for. It wasn't something we were conscious of. It was just, you know, keep out of trouble, keep the ball away from them, don't go into any tackles. And that was the result. So, it ended up being a record. And I'm sure, you know, it's probably still there because as we've noticed in this World Cup, you know, all those those nations that were seemed as being, lesser quality, and now all coming, they're all getting stronger. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine that kind of score line in a World Cup
No.
would happen again too soon.
Well, look, I wanted to just sort of end on, I guess, a couple of things. First, look, two things I wanted to end on. Just for me personally, obviously, a very proud son of a father who's achieved quite a lot within the football world, especially being a Socceroo and a Matilda coach. But from a Matilda coach point of view, first of all, I want to ask what your favourite moment was from your tenure there. And then I also want to get a score prediction for Matilda's the game tomorrow night, because I don't know if everyone can probably pick up on the call. My father has a bit of an English accent. There isn't a family back home, so I do want to know what his score prediction is going to be. He'll either upset one side of the family or not. But yeah, I thought I'd end on those two. I guess your favourite moment as a Matilda's coach and your score prediction for tomorrow night.
Yeah, look, with the Matildas, I mean, every game's an international. They're so special. But I think qualifying for the World Cup against New Zealand, we beat them 3-0 in Auckland. That was special because it means, God, we're going to the World Cup in the US. J-Lo was the halftime entertainment. You know what I mean?
No, that happened.
No, sorry, pre-match entertainment. If you ever look at Let's Get Live, not Let's Get Live. Let's Get Loud.
Let's Get Loud.
Let's Get Loud. Let's Get Loud.
So look up the video. Let's Get Loud. That was at the Rose Bowl prior to the Women's World Cup in '99. Right. So it was a massive thing for us to go to the World Cup in America. So that was probably the most special moment, was qualifying for that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That was fantastic, and the whole World Cup experience was brilliant. Getting back to tomorrow's game, I've got my heart in my head, and my head tells me England will win. I just think they are the better team right now. I think they've got quality all around the park. They've already shown that they can mix things up formation-wise. Like against Nigeria, when they go man down, they changed the formation completely and ended up dominating the game with 10 men. Right. I just think their experience of already winning the Euros and going through massive games, my head tells me they could probably win it, and I picked that prior to the comp. My heart is with Australia, because I just think, just imagine them in the World Cup final here. I just can't think of it.
I know, that's all I think of. Like, I mean, me and you, Dad, our whole lives have talked about World Cups and wanting to go and just how special that is. And we've always said, and silly enough, we've always thought, when's the men's World Cup going to get here? You know what I mean? And to see the women's World Cup here, it's everything I imagined it to be. And like you said, to get to a World Cup final, in your home country, I'd drive you down here myself, Dad.
Well, I've already put my request in for a few tickets there, but look, I honestly believe whoever wins this game tomorrow will win the World Cup.
Wow.
Yeah. I just think I wouldn't want to play England in the World Cup final, and I wouldn't want to play Australia at home in the World Cup final. You know what I mean? Whoever plays Australia. I mean, this is England's World Cup final. I don't like saying that because I don't want England to make this is the final and then go into the final not unprepared. I'm sure they won't, but for me, this is the biggest game of the competition. I think whoever wins it will win the World Cup. And if I feel sorry for whoever has to face Australia in a World Cup final in Sydney, that will just be. I mean, you've already seen the crowds already; they're just crazy, and it's going to be a massive test for anybody to play Australia in a World Cup final in Sydney. But I do think this game is the decider tomorrow night.
Excellent,
awesome.
And if you got the result, and look. The other thing is we haven't seen the best of Australia yet because Sam Kerr's not played a full game yet. And she knows for Sam Kerr playing against England, it's no big deal because she plays against these girls week in, week out. She knows them. And so she's the X factor tomorrow. I mean, if she turns it on, Australia could very well win. I think she has to start.
Yeah.
I think she does. And I've said right, from the start that I think these crowds will be a goal a game for the Matildas. I can't see them not scoring with Sam Kerr playing a full game. But I do see England getting a couple, so I'd probably go 2-1 for England. Again, that's my head, not my heart. I just can't wait for the game.
Oh,
It's gonna be great. Well, look, thank you so much for your time, Dad, and Greg Brown to other people. But really appreciate your time and taking us through the Matildas, and hopefully we might actually have one more interview once we've won it. And we can go through some more stories from your Matilda and Socceroo days, because I know there'll be some people wanting to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, it's been a pleasure being on the 4 Browns. And
it's been a 20-minute thing. You've been thinking of that. Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.